So in this demo, I'm going to try and make an app from scratch and have something working by the end of it, which is always very dangerous to do something live, but we'll get a go, live dangerously. So I'm going to start from this data that I've put together ahead of time. So a lot of you, I imagine, have used SharePoint before. You might have lists of data that you use the regular forms to update and add information to. But let's say you've got guys on the road, or you don't want people to have to be sitting at a desk to enter information. So we're going to create a wee app that can live on a phone or live on a tablet, and the users can log on, and in this instance, they're going to be able to order a new device. So if we go to Power Apps, it's just make.powerapps.com. And as Alasdair mentioned, you can do Canvas apps, model-driven apps, and portals. Portals are a bit to the side. Model-driven apps, as Alasdair mentioned, are more data-focused. You start from the data, and the model-driven app builds your app for you, deals with the user interface, the forms, or the input screens, stuff like that. So today we're going to focus on Canvas apps. So let me just create a new one. Power Apps will just spin that up. As Alasdair said, there's a load of templates to help you get started. So you pick the layout that you want to use, and there's different templates in each layout. So we can say we want to start from a phone template, and we've got an asset checkout, budget tracker, cost estimator, all these things. Most of these templates use an Excel file as their data source. So they're not really designed to be used in a kind of production type environment. It's just to kind of get you into using Power Apps and how they look and feel and all that kind of thing. But if we go back, and we will create a Canvas app, and what we will do is we will create a phone one from blank. So when we create from blank, that's us saying, just give me a blank canvas and I'll decide what I want my data source to be, what I want it to look like, and how I want it to function. So this Power Apps isn't giving us any help here. So as I mentioned, I've got my data sources here. I've got a list of devices, manufacturers, and orders. So if I go back to Power Apps, and in here, I want to say, okay, I need to connect this Power App to those data sources. So down the left-hand side, you've got some options here. One of those is data sources. And as you can see, there's no data in my app at the moment. I'm going to add data. And this is where Power Apps is asking you now, where is your data? So for now, we'll pick SharePoint. We've got to pick a connection. So it will try and connect with the current logged in user to make sure that I've got the right credentials to the data. And over here, I've got my asset orders, which is what my data source is called, asset orders. So I'll go ahead and pick that. Then you can see my devices, manufacturers, orders. I'll connect to those. And then over here, you can see I've got my data sources. So now we want to show the data from those data sources in the app. So if I go over here to my tree view, I can see I've got this here, this app that I can put in some code if I want to do something when the app starts. But for the moment, I just want to concentrate on screen one, and I want to add a control. So up here we go to insert, and this is a whole list of controls that are available to you. So you've got forms, tables, you can do text boxes and buttons and labels and all sorts of good stuff. But one of these pre-configured components is called a gallery, and this is for displaying data from your data source. So you add a gallery to your app, you connect it to your data source, and then you can do different things with that data. So we'll go ahead and add a vertical gallery. Feel free to go in and play around with the different types. They all function the same, they just look a bit different. So if we click on vertical gallery, Power Apps will put in a gallery for us with the data source being this custom gallery sample. So it's got some sample data just to give you an idea of what it looks like. but that's not really any good to us. What we want to show is our manufacturers. So it gives you this prompt to say, you've got these data sources in your app already. Do you want to pick one of these? And I'll say, yes, I want to pick manufacturers. And just like that, we've now got a list of manufacturers coming from manufacturers list in SharePoint. So you can see Acer, Alasdair, HP, Acer, Alasdair, HP. We're in, we're started. We've got here as well in our list a link to a logo, a picture of HQ, and a picture of a store. So instead of using this sample image, what we can do is we can say, for this item, I want to show the logo that comes from our data source. And all we've got to do is update one item, and that replicates throughout the gallery. So we can see here at the moment, this image and this item is a sample image, but we can say we don't want to see that. We want to see this item dot logo, and just like that, it starts pulling the information from our manufacturers list and showing it here. Here we've got this item dot title, which I think is fine. We've got the title here. We don't really have much more information on that. We don't really need to see this manufacturer ID, so we'll just delete that. And there we go. Our first step, we've put in a gallery, we've connected the data source, we've pulled in that data, and then we've managed to style that data in a bit of a nicer format. So the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to click on a manufacturer, and that will take us to a list of devices. So we will add a new screen. Power Apps gives you a few options here where you can say, I want a bit of help. I want this pre-configured to be a list of information. So we could use that, but we'll just start from blank. And again, we will add a gallery. Again, we get the custom gallery sample data, but this time we want to see devices. And there we go. Now you can see there we've got a whole list of our devices coming from here. There's a whole list of them there. But that's not any good to us because that's giving us all the devices. And that's not really what we want. So what we want to see is in our data source over here, we've got devices and these items here. And we want to say filter this list where the manufacturer ID, manufacturer ID is the same as the manufacturer ID of the item I clicked on. So that exists in this gallery one. So if we do gallery one dot selected dot manufacturer ID. So at the moment, it's saying that we've selected the first one. So you can see that list is a lot shorter now. And if we go back to our gallery and we click on Microsoft, back to here, it's forwarded it to show only the Microsoft devices. If we go to Dell and back, it's showing all of these Dell devices. Again, that's not ideal. You saw there I had to manually go and switch between these screens. That wouldn't be any use to the user. So we have to tell this gallery what to do when a user selects a manufacturer. And how we do that is we highlight the gallery, and in lots of components within Power Apps, they have this function on select. And effectively that's saying, what do you want me to do when a user presses me? And in this instance, all we want to do, there's a Power Apps function called navigate. And we want to navigate to screen 2. So we just pick screen 2. And now when we pick Dell, we get navigate to screen 2. If we go back and navigate to Microsoft, get our navigation sorted there. Again, we're in the same situation as before with we've got this sample image. Is that really what we want? If we go to our devices, we can see here we've got a link to a photo here. So we'll say again, this item dot photo, and boom, there we go. Again, do we really need this ID? I don't think so, but we've got lots of other information, so maybe we could use something like that, and we could maybe use device type. So instead of using this item dot device ID, we can say let's change that to device type, and just like that, it changes. Like I mentioned before, this is the item that you edit, and then that gets reflected through all the items that are in your list, no matter how many there are. You can see here in the Microsoft one there's only 4, but if we go to the Asus ones, there's a whole lot more, and everything that we changed in this top item gets replicated by magic, I suppose. So we've got now a list of manufacturers. We clicked on that, it takes us to a list of devices, but this doesn't really tell us much about the device, and we know we've got a whole load more information here. So what about we create another new screen, and this time we're going to create a form, and we're going to create a display form, because what we want to do here is we click on a manufacturer, we click on a device, and we want to see a lot more information about that device. So we can create a display form. This doesn't give you the wee prompt to say, do you want to change your data connection? So we have to pick a data source from up here, and we say we want to show devices, and that will generate a kind of a sample of the columns that are available to us. But we can go in here and say, okay, I want to add another field, and let's see what else is in here. Maybe we want to add storage or memory. Let's do memory. So we can go down and add memory, and now we're showing the memory. But now we've got to tell Power Apps which device to show in this form. And so although we've said the data source is devices is a whole load of items, and we need to say which specific one we want to show. And much like we did when we were moving between galleries, we have to use our gallery.selected. So if we go to the item of this form, we want it to be the item that we selected in gallery 2, show me that information here. So if we do gallery 2 selected, and this time we just need to do selected, we don't need to do dot ID or dot anything else, because we want the whole item, the whole object. So there we go. Now we've got all the details of the item that we selected back here. So again, let's pick a Microsoft one, and we'll pick a Surface. Sorry, and then we go back here, and we've got the information about the Surface. But that's reminded me that I haven't told this gallery what to do when somebody selects an item from here. So much like we did in gallery 1, we go to the on select of this gallery. There we go, on select, it's set to false, and what we want to do is navigate in 3. Now when we pick our Surface, it takes you to screen 3, and we can see all the information about that device. That screen doesn't look great, so maybe it would look a bit nicer if we add an image. So we can say, okay, we want to add an image on this screen as well. And in this, again, we've got this sample image, but we want to have a specific image. So we want to say in here, while in here we did gallery 1.selected, that gave us, sorry, gallery 2.selected, and that gave us the whole item that we clicked on. In the image, we want to do gallery 2.selected photo, and there we go. Then we get a nice wee photo of our device. So if we go back to gallery 2, we can see the information changes as you pass it into that screen. So next, what we want to do, we want to say, okay, I've picked my manufacturer, I've picked my device, I've saw a bit more information about it. Yep, this is the one I want to buy. So we can add a nice button, and we'll call that select device maybe. And at the moment, the on select of that button is set to false, so it's not going to do anything. What we want to do is make that go to another new screen where the user will be able to add a bit more information about the order that they want to place. So we'll add another new screen, and this time we will create a form for them to input information to, and this is what will be get submitted to SharePoint. So if we add an edit form, again, it's not connected to anything. We want to connect it to orders because orders is the list that we want to put the information into. So we click orders, and we get a nice form that the users can fill in. But we don't really want them to fill it in because they've already picked their manufacturer, their device, saw them more information, and they've said, yep, this is the one. So we can help them out here. They don't need to see the approver. They don't need to see the approved date. They don't need to see the department contribution. That's enough for them, I think. Also, we don't want them to have to type in the information that they've just already selected. So we'll get them a wee hand by setting the default value of these to the ones they've just clicked. So when you're editing a form like this, you have to unlock the properties, and then we can do, much like we did before, gallery 2.selected.manufacturer name, and we'll do a wee bit of concatenation here just to put a wee hyphen on, and then we'll do gallery 2.selected.device name. So that helps them out. They don't need to type anything like that. The comments, we can let them type that. The price, again, we need to unlock it. We set the default gallery 2.selected.price. There we go. The request date, again, we need to unlock it. But Power Apps gives you a nice wee function called today, and we can say just default that to today. The user will be able to go in and change that. Requested by, Power Apps gives you a nice wee function called user. And then there's some options here. What do we want to pass in? We'll pass in the full name. And there we go, requested by John Condron. Default values for the user to be able to just select the device and order it. And then I was going back to screen 3 just to tell it this button where to go when it's clicked. So now when we click here, it takes us to this screen where we're able then to say, okay, I'm happy with all this. We have to do a wee bit of configuration here where we tell it that we want this to be a new form every time, and also when it's submitted, what to do. But we can come back to that and I'll show you one of those kind of pre-configured screens. So first of all, we'll add a button and we'll call that submit. And when that is clicked on the on select of that, we want to do submit form form 1. So you can see here, like, this isn't like traditional coding. It does feel like a wee bit of like codey speak when if you're not a developer, but it's not entirely like writing lines and lines of code as you would traditionally. So we've got that submit order, we've got our new form, and we've got to decide what we want to do after the order's been submitted. So we'll create another new screen and we'll choose one of these pre-configured ones, and we'll choose our success one. So this is the screen that the user will go to when the order's been submitted successfully. It's just called screen 5. So we'll go back to screen 4, we'll pick our form, and we've got an option here. One of the properties is, what do you want me to do when I successfully submit this? And what I want you to do is a new form 1. And also I want you to navigate to screen 5. Yep, I was just saying that when we submit this form, we want to just clear the form to a new one again and navigate to screen 5. And I think that's us good to go. I'm almost happy to test it all now. So we'll go back to our first screen and we will run it. We can pick our HP. We'll pick an elite book. Yep, that looks like the boy for me. And we'll submit our order. Looks like it's been submitted, so I'll just go and check the data. And there we have our order, my elite book, comments, I want this, the price. And that could be like the trigger for an approval process to kick off, or it could be like someone else picks that up and that gets sent to purchasing or whoever deals with buying new devices. But I just wanted to get the concept of how you could look at the data that you've got currently and have a different way of interacting with it, have a different way of how the users can put data in there, or how users could get data from there. But yeah, I'm happy with that. I think that the app is finished. Obviously, it's nowhere near ready for a production environment, but I think it's a good way of demonstrating how you can start from scratch, start from a blank screen and easily connect to data, pull that data in, do something with that data, and then send it somewhere else. And as we spoke about, those data sources can be SharePoint, they can be SQL Server, they can be Dataverse, they can be all of these 200 connectors that Microsoft speak about. You can pull in data from 2 different data sources, have users work on them, and then send that data somewhere else. It absolutely blows my mind how amazing the Power Apps is. Not only how amazing it is just now, it's well and truly on the Power Platform, and the money that they're spending, the investment they're making and making it better blows my mind. But thank you very much for listening to me. I'm John Condron. You can get me on LinkedIn, or if you've got any, I'm sure there's maybe, if you've got any questions, Owen will be dealing with the Q&A. But yeah, LinkedIn, email, carrier pigeon, whatever you like.